Alright, welcome back to the tutorials. So, when last we met, I left you with a little bit of a homework assignment in that we started coding sort of Bob's attack here, and we started specifically trying to center our off-center sprite. So, I've got mine centered pretty well where I like it. Okay, let's take a look at the code here and see sort of how we did that. So I've got my angles set up, and of course, honestly, if you wanted to, you could expand this and make, direction of Bob is equal to 45 degrees, right? And keep adding sort of 45 here to get to the point where you've got all you can shoot from, diagonals as well. I think you always want to be careful about creating a game that's too easy or too powerful, right? So for right now, I think I'm okay with just having 4 directions for shooting so that it's more about Bob positioning himself strategically when he's shooting something. All right, so what's next? Well, we've got to think about, I should bring this back up again. Hold on. Because I want to kind of talk while I'm showing this to you. So we want to start thinking about, again, the strategy of our game. How do we want this to actually work? So we can make this so that only one object can be shot at one given time, right? Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. And we can also, but we need to address, we need to address the fact that the sword, technically, when you shoot it, just continues to go on. Like it's continuing to go on right now. It just keeps going and going and going. And that's because there's nothing actually stopping it. That means we need to create some sort of way of stopping this sword and destroying the object from the screen. So that's going to be actually fairly simple to do here. Because we've taken the time and we've started creating our grouping. So let's go to Basic Kingdom Room Layout here for a second, and let's click on this button up here to show our groupings. And we've got a furniture group here, right? Let's click into that. And in this furniture group, we've got everything in our Basic Kingdom Room that's supposed to be a solid object, right? That would stop the momentum of, say, like a sword. So anytime we add something, like let's say we wanted to add a new piece of furniture to the room, we'd want to add it to this group. And I'll show you why in a second, because groupings in GDevelop really make things a lot easier and more expandable later on. So let's hit apply. And actually, I'm going to make one more group here as well. And I'm going to rename this one Bob Weapons. And I'm going to add Bob's weapons here. Right now, really the only weapon or true weapon is the sword. So I'm going to hit apply there. And then watch how simple the coding is for something like this because of the groupings. Let me close that out. Let's go to Bob Attacks. And we only need this piece of code to run when there's a battle going on anyway. So we can just add an event down here. Move it over, and let's go ahead and set up our condition, and that's going to be a collision condition, right? So now we don't want to hit sword. If we try to do sword here, then we're going to have to create conditions for all of the weapons. We don't want to do that. We want to use Bob weapons here, our grouping, and say that when it's in collision with, again, the furniture, which includes our wall. I mean, I know it doesn't quite make sense to do that, but you could separate this out and kind of, you could separate it out, furniture, and then, what's a good word here? I almost said drywall. But I don't really see the point. I think just keeping furniture is fine, or you could make it obstacles maybe, something like that if you wanted to. But the point is, when a weapon is in collision with a furniture item, what do we want to do? We want to delete, excuse me, delete an object here. And we want to delete the Bob weapon. And this is going to help us in the future when we create things like axes and maces or whatever you want to create that's a weapon. Okay? So we'll go ahead and we'll hit OK. Now, pretty simple. Let's watch what happens here. All right, let me come out here first. First, we'll try to shoot into the wall. Done. Okay, so now it can't go into the wall. You'll probably see it'll go through the door, though. Yeah. So we can include the doorway in our obstacle here, but you'll notice it no longer goes through the desk. How about the bed? We're good on the bed. Okay. And what about our chest up here? Good. All right, that works. So let's go ahead and let's add the door. There's no point in letting the sword go through the door unless you just think it's kind of cool to see it go through an open door. So let's go to our objects here. Let's add to furniture. Let's see, doorway. Did that work? Yeah, there it is. Okay, good. Let's hit apply, make sure we save it. All right, now it shouldn't be able to go through the door either, which is fine, that makes sense. All right, so we now have added a kind of a smart physics to this right now, right? So now it makes sense that a sword wouldn't be able to go through a wall or furniture, things like that. But we have to apply a collision now to our actual enemy NPC. And let's just bring up, let's go to our load game here for a second. Let's remind ourselves of how we're doing this. So we're initiating a battle here, right? And that initiates our ability to attack, right? So here's this there, but what's actually going to govern our battle? Well, we sort of created two things here. We've got our goons, right? And this is in load game under enemy NPCs. We've got our goons here, and our goons have position variables, damage, and health, and dialogue, all that stuff that they can use, right? That we, I think we're using here also for goon create, right? Let's go ahead and bring these up too. I'm in basic kingdom room. So goon create, we're using that as a trigger variable to be able to create a goon at a certain position, whatever position we feed it, basically. And then we can create our goon there. That's good. What about goon battle? Let's bring that up. So this is going to be sort of our area where we can, destroy goons. Again, let's talk strategy here for a second. When we created these goons, right, we wanted them to be basically nameless, non-specific NPCs, right, that you can just kill pretty easily. And if you're going the old-fashioned route, things like Legend of Zelda kind of stuff, usually one hit will get rid of these goons, and I'm okay with that. If you want to start getting into more like multiple hits, we can do that. We can talk about that. But for right now, let's make it pretty straightforward. Let's just get a battle going and sort of completed here. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is here in goons.battle, this is where we're sort of regulating what the goon can and can't collide with. And we've got this condition here, goon is in collision with furniture, move goon away. That keeps the goon from being able to walk through items. But now we want to add another collision, and that is the collision with our sword, right? Or with our weapon, better yet. So let's do that. Let's add a condition here. And I'm going to copy this, paste it in, and say if the goon is in collision with Bob weapons. what do we want to do? Well, we want to delete that object, goon. All right, let's see how we do here with this. And remember, we haven't really tied in our battle system yet with our weapons. We're just going for basic. Basically, we're just having fun for a second, trying things out, making sure they work, and then we'll tie in with the specifics. This is just one way to program. Some people like a very linear way to program. All right, let's see. Bam. All right, well, so you see it's gone. Now, what happens if I come back in? Is the goon still there? Yep. So that's one way, you know, certainly. Oh, jeez. I couldn't actually shoot. It didn't even let me shoot. We might have to create a kind of cutscene there a little bit, unless you want it to be that sort of anxious, which you certainly can. We want to clean up a couple of things here before we move on to the next thing. One is, you noticed in when Bob actually shot the goon that the sword just kind of kept going. Now, you can create a sword, right? There are weapons in games that will shoot through an enemy and continue going. You can have that as one of your options. Remember, when we tie in our actual weapons to our battle system, you can make that as an option. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to say, I'm going to create another event here, and I'm going to say copy, paste, and you can already see what's probably coming soon. You might actually, when you create multiple enemies, you're going to probably end up creating a grouping of enemies. And it says Bob weapons, when it's in collision with the goon, we need to go ahead and do this. Let's copy and paste. Whoops. Let's copy and paste that here. The other thing is, we might, we'll talk about that later. Let's just see how this works here, and then we'll get into more of the specifics, I think, later on, talking about maybe storyboarding that first encounter a little bit better. All right. All right, you ready? Let's go beat up this goon. Here he comes. Let me get out of here. What just happened? What? My own game is cheating. All right, let's see what happened here. Let's try to figure this out. So we've got our delete object here in two places, right? We've got when Bob weapons is in collision with goon, you've got delete the object. This probably want to move this. Let's copy and paste this here. And then let's toggle disable this. We might come back to this later on. We might need it. All right, let's see. Because it did execute that bit of code, but it didn't really work out the way we wanted it to. All right. All right, let's get some distance here. Bam. All right. Bob's fighting back. Nicely done. Alright, in the next tutorial we'll start refining things maybe a little bit more and talk about perhaps storyboarding this first encounter here.